From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of I Can't See You. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I'm really glad you're here for this episode, and welcome inside Studio B. Thanks for joining me. I'll get to the financial app stuff in a minute, but I wanted to talk about some equipment issues I was having. I was having trouble with this webcam that you are now seeing me on if you're watching on YouTube. And so I ordered a Sony ZV-E10 from Amazon. I ordered it on a Saturday. I got it on a Sunday. And Monday, when I was setting it up with Liz's help here in Studio B, I couldn't remember if I got a memory card with it. So I logged on to Amazon and I saw that it didn't come with a memory card. But I also saw what I spent $7.99 for on Saturday was now $6.99 on Monday. Not only that, but it was including a memory card, 128 gigs, and a case. Now, I don't know if I'm ever going to use the case because my intention is to use it on this device here in Studio B so that I have no issues when I'm shooting a podcast episode or other videos. And I do want to do other videos, as I've mentioned. I had recorded an episode using this very webcam, and it cut off the top of my head, roughly around my eyebrows. Sometimes it was a little above my eyebrows, sometimes a little below. It was not great. I was so mad. I considered dropping the episode just as a podcast, but by the time I had decided that, a week had gone by. And I thought, it's stale, I'm not going to use it. So here I am recording episode 268, and you'll notice in the beginning, I just said another episode instead of the actual episode number. I'll always have the episode number at the end of the show where you can go to the show notes, but I thought, I've recorded this episode so many times. At the beginning, I was wondering, is it 268? Is it 269? I couldn't remember. So from here on out, I'm just going to say another episode instead of the actual episode number. So here we are, same webcam, which I kind of messed around with, and I think and hope that it is good for this episode. So as I mentioned, I went back to New York City because I was asked to give some feedback and do some testing on a financial app. And of course, I always say yes because A, I love going to New York City. I get to see Jane usually. I get to go. I set it up for a Thursday so I could go to the Jackie Robinson Museum, which I have been dying to go to for years. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. So I go to New York City, get on the train in Swarthmore, go to Philadelphia, get on the train, go to New York. I get to New York. Now, my intention, because of the issues I was having with my eye, even when I closed my eye because of the pain wouldn't go away unless I fell asleep, even if it was just for a couple of minutes. So my intention was not to have any caffeine before I left the house, not to have any caffeine in Philadelphia from the Dunkin'. I figured I'm going to wait till I get to New York City. I had about an hour and change before I had to go and test the app. So I thought, let me go to Starbucks at Penn Station. I knew I was going to get out at Penn Station because I figured all that out last time, that I could just walk after I get my Starbucks and drink my Starbucks. I can go right up the stairs, go out right to the taxi stand. And there's a funny story with the taxi stand too. I get off the train, I get my bearings, I walk around, and the Starbucks is closed. And I'm thinking, okay, is it closed? Or I hear people back there. Are they just opening late? And I'm thinking, who's going to open a Starbucks after morning rush is over? This is around 10:15, 10:30 on a Thursday. I'm thinking they're not going to open today if it's going to open at all. And I'm standing there for a couple of minutes. And I hear them saying, oh, are we supposed to take this out? And I'm realizing they're dismantling this Starbucks at Penn Station. I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I guess they're closing this one because they have the new one at Moynihan Train Hall. Next time I'll get off at Moynihan, which is literally right across 8th Avenue. But you can get off the train and walk underground to either of the two places. I came up at Penn Station. I could have continued walking and come up in Moynihan. I'll talk about that in a second too. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Do I walk across the street and get the Starbucks? Or do I figure there's got to be some other coffee place in Penn Station. So I take my phone out, and one of the apps that I've mentioned before that I like to use for situations like this is called Seeing AI. It's a free download. Go check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes. I take it out. I'm standing in one section, and I just start moving my hand around, keeping the phone fairly close to my head so I can hear it. And I hear that there's a Dunkin'. So I thought, okay, I start to go towards the Dunkin'. And then I start thinking, do I want an iced tea or do I want a hot tea? I know I'm going to freeze my butt off when I'm testing the app, but it was a really warm day. It was already in the 90s by the time I got to New York. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to have an iced tea, but I'm going to drink it outside. So I went to Dunkin'. I found it. I ordered it. I took it upstairs and went outside. It was terrible. The tea was terrible. As Ted Lasso would say, it was like brown water. And it was. It tasted like dirty water. So I drank it outside, and I'm literally maybe 20 or 30 yards from the taxi stand. I'm drinking it, and I figured, you know what, I've had enough. I was thinking about throwing it out, but I said, you know what, let me take it with me just in case I'm still thirsty when I get off on the other side. I get to the taxi stand. I'm standing in between two barriers, waiting for somebody to say, do you need a cab? I don't know who works there. Finally, a guy comes up to me and said, where are you headed? I said, oh, I'm headed to 770 Broadway. Oh, okay. Well, let's go over this way. And this guy starts to walk me over to 33rd Street. And I said, oh, are there more cabs over here? He said, no, you're going to walk, right? I said, no, that's too far of a walk. I was going to take a cab. Oh, I thought you were just trying to cross the street and you were trying to cross it in the middle of the street. I said, no, I was looking for a cab. You don't work for the cab company? He said, no, I just thought I was helping you out. Well, he wasn't helping me. So I walked back to the cab section, and this time one of the actual taxi guys helped me and said, okay, take him to wherever. So I get in this cab, and I often wonder when I get in an Uber or a Lyft, is it safe? This is just some guy or girl who's making a side hustle, or maybe it's their whole hustle, driving in their own personal car. How do I know if they're a good driver or not? Well, I won't think that anymore after getting in this cab. This guy nearly got in an accident about 10 feet from where we left in front of Penn Station. And initially, I wasn't sure if we actually were tapped by the guy behind us because the cab jammed on the brakes. Then as we're driving, and he was on the phone the whole time. Then as we're driving, we are making a turn from one street onto another, and we have the light, but so does obviously the crosswalk. There was a group of people on bikes that were crossing, and he just got tired of waiting and then saw a little bit of a break from the people walking and the bikes to just cut through. And I hear everybody yelling, hey, you almost hit me. Hey, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh my God. So we get to where I need to be. And I asked him what street this was, the cross street, and he told me the wrong street. So I walked around a little bit extra, but I found my way, got inside. We start to go through the testing, and I love the new app. I can't wait. It's the Yahoo Financial app. It is so awesome, but there's still a lot of issues, and they haven't had, evidently, I might have been the first actual blind person to actually test it. And there are buttons that aren't labeled. There are drop downs that aren't labeled. There are things that go on that the person I was with, Murtaza, he said, oh, I don't see anything there. And I said, well, listen, and we're going through it, and there was something there, but it wasn't visible to a sighted person, which I thought was kind of cool. So we're testing this, and it was the Thursday of the 3-day meltdown. So Thursday was bad, Friday was bad, and then Monday, yesterday, I'm recording this on the 6th, yesterday was horrible. But I'm testing this and it was great. And we're only testing, there's 4 main tabs. We only tested the first tab and we didn't really go into any of the other pages. This was just the main tab. And there were issues and he got a lot of notes and it was awesome testing it. And I was so happy to give the feedback and do all that. And best of all, they had lunch that day at Yahoo. They provided it for everyone. So I got in on that. I got in on that. So I didn't have to go to get lunch because Jane said, where are you going to have lunch before you go to the museum? After you go to the museum? So I did the testing and it was cold in there, but this time I had tea. Murtaza said, do you want a tea or something? And I said, yeah, tea would be great. Hot tea. So I just held on to it for a while and that kept me warm long enough to get me through the testing. So that part was also very awesome. After lunch, I said goodbye. Murtaza walked me down and we walked outside and I ordered an Uber or a Lyft. I'm pretty sure it was a Lyft actually, but I didn't know where to order it for. I stood on the corner. I ordered it while I was in front of Yahoo, but I walked down to the corner of 9th and Broadway because whenever I ask the cabbie to take me to 770 Broadway, they always take me to somewhere on Broadway. And as I've mentioned previously, the door to go inside is in the middle of the block on 9th. So I waited at the corner, not sure if he was going to come down Broadway or come down 9th. And when he pulled up, this guy had pulled up on 9th. So all was good. I said, I'm sorry I waited so far down from the door, but I wasn't sure if you were going to be on 9th or you were going to be on Broadway. And I had messaged him. So the one cool thing about Lyft, you can message the driver beforehand. And I did. I messaged him. I said, I'm blind. I'm wearing a black shirt and whatever color pants I had on. I don't remember. I think they were tan. And I'm standing on the corner of 9th and Broadway. And sent that message. Uber doesn't do that, I don't believe, when you place the order. I think you can go in after and do that. So I went over to the Jackie Robinson Museum. Now, I may have mentioned the Jackie Robinson Museum before. I have wanted to go to it. When Jane was in school at Pace University on their Manhattan campus, when we would take her to school or pick her up or go visit her, there was, as we were going into the tunnel, the Holland Tunnel, we would see a sign for the Jackie Robinson Museum. But it didn't open. Every time we were there, it hadn't opened yet. I would check online. Did it open? Did it open? Finally, about 2 or 3 years ago, it opened. And every time I've been to New York since, I thought, okay, are we going to go to the Jackie Robinson Museum today? And it's never been the right day because they're closed Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When I go to Laugh for Sight, closed. I was going to go, the first year I went to Laugh for Sight, I thought, Tuesday morning, I'm going to go either get in a car, get on the subway and go up to the museum. I thought, you know what, let me just double check. And I went on Google that morning and it said, nope, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday closed. So like I said, I scheduled this appointment for Thursday specifically so I could get to the Jackie Robinson Museum. And when I walked in, the girl had to wand me. Not sure why. I don't think I looked threatening, although who knows. But I talked to her and she was very nice, the security lady. And then I went over to get my ticket. And on my white cane, my little tchotchke or whatever you want to call it. So I know that's my cane. If I'm in a group of a bunch of blind people and we all put our canes somewhere, I know that I feel for that. It's a bat that's about 3 or 4 inches long. It's blue and it's got a number 42 on it. I've talked about it before. I'm not sure if the 42 is in white or in yellow. I think it's in white, but I'm not 100%. So the guy sees the bat and I said, I've been waiting to come here for so long. He said, I said, no, my daughter was walking by one day and saw that you guys were open and knew that I wanted to come here. So she bought this for my birthday last year. So I got to go through. Now I had my GoPro on me and I was hoping that I could shoot video as I walked around, but I couldn't. That was okay. I really wanted to because I thought I could have a standalone video of the Jackie Robinson Museum to show how it is and how you could get through the museum without sight. Or with limited sight. Again, a very wide spectrum of people are considered blind. And we had this discussion last night at dinner with some of my blind friends. That's another episode. So the guy told me, okay, the best is to start over at this, I forget what he called this wall. And so he walked me over to the wall and then he pointed out some things. And he then walked me into the main part of the museum, which was, he said, start here and go counterclockwise to go through the museum. I said, okay, that sounds great. And I took my phone out and I was I didn't take my phone out right away because there was a video playing. So I watched the video and I don't know how long it was. It wasn't too long. And then I went, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the walls. And I don't think it was raised. It was almost like a wallpaper that had the words on it and some images. I don't know what the images were. But I used Seeing AI again to read the different blurbs on the wall. Now, I made a mistake because I started using it and reading the entire bit from one section to another as I walked at the very beginning. And I realized as I'm walking around, after only being there for around 10 minutes or 15 minutes, my phone was getting hot and the battery was starting to really drain using Seeing AI. So I thought, you know what, maybe I better just get the beginning of each blurb as I continue on because I need the phone to order a ride share, get directions, whatever. And I don't have a chargeable battery for that, a battery pack, which I'm going to get. And I keep forgetting, I keep forgetting to get. And one day I'm going to lose juice and then I'll really be in trouble. So as I continue through and I get up to a certain section and there's another security guy or a guy that works, I don't know if he's security. And I'm holding my phone up in the vertical position. And he said, oh, sir, no video. I'm sorry, you can't shoot video. I said, no, I'm not shooting video. I said, this is how I read. I said, I can't see. And I pointed it to, there was a sign. I don't remember what the sign said. I said, this is reading all the stuff that's on the walls. And he said, oh, okay. And I don't know what the difference between that and shooting video would be, but whatever it is, it is. So I went through, there was another video or two, and there was some audio, some radio stuff that they had further on in. And it was just the museum is very nice. And they do offer a disabled discount. Whether I got that or not, I don't know, because I was talking to the guy the whole time. He never told me how much, and I haven't checked my credit card bill. But it's worth an hour or two if you're in New York and you want to, and you're a baseball fan, because there's a lot of great stuff in there. And I never knew that Jackie Robinson was a 4-letter star athlete at UCLA, basketball and football and track, as well as baseball. And it was just great to get there. Now, I noticed they had an upstairs. I don't know what was up there. It was roped off, but a very nice modern space. And again, if you're a fan, there's a lot to take in there. Again, more than what I actually did, because like I said, I actually shut my phone down at one point. It got so hot, I didn't want to keep it running. So I shut it down for a bit while I was watching another video further on down. And I thought, I don't want to stay here and continue with draining my battery. At this point, I'm down to about 30%. And I thought, you know what? I'm not far from La Durée. Let's go there. But again, I had trouble finding it. I was using Google Maps. I don't know if I mentioned in the last episode, and maybe it was the episode that I didn't release. Philly Meetup for the Blind and Visually Impaired had a meetup, and we talked about tech. We talked about all sorts of apps. And one couple had gone to Montreal and they used Google Maps. And I thought, okay, I'll use that. Another person named George had said, oh, I use Lazarillo or Lazarillo. Not sure. My phone pronounces it Lazarillo like it's Spanish. But I'll put links to them in the show notes. Obviously, you probably have Google Maps on your phone. Lazarillo or Lazarillo is also a free download. And I've had that on my phone forever. In fact, I've had it on, I don't know that I ever used it until George had talked about it. And I did use it, and it helped me get out of Penn Station if I needed it. I shouldn't say it helped me get out. If I didn't know where I was, it would have helped me get out, because I turned it on while I was in Penn Station and it told me 33rd and 8th Avenue 457 feet, 457 meters. I don't remember what it said as far as the distance, but I knew I was heading in the right direction. I already knew I was heading in the right direction, but I thought this is very cool if I'm somewhere else inside a building and I don't know where I'm exiting to. Now, the downside to Lazarillo or Lazarillo is that it constantly talks to you. I had it on in the cab, and it's telling me there's this place to 20 feet to my left or 20 meters to my left. And it's just constantly talking. And I finally there's a way to pause that, which I did at one point. And then I thought, you know what? I'm in the cab. I don't need this at all. So I shut it down. So I knew I was going to use Google Maps to get to Ladre or Lazarillo. I pulled it up on Google Maps, and I asked for directions, and it told me to go a certain way. And I went that way. And it felt wrong. It felt that I was going the wrong way. But I continued on, and it said, head northeast on this road. Canal. I said, okay. And then it felt wrong. And it went from I was 7 minutes away to now I was 9 minutes away. And I thought, I knew I was going the wrong way. Why? What's going on? So I eventually, with the help of people as we're trying to cross some streets, I said, what street is this in front? And they would tell me, and I said, thank you. I knew I had to walk down a little further. I knew I had to walk down to West Broadway. Walked down to West Broadway, made the left, and I knew I was good to go at that point. I shut Google Maps down. I had already shut down Lazarillo. And I finally made it to Ladre. Now, when I got there were no tables in front. I didn't want to go back into the restaurant. It was just a casual, hey, I'm going to drink an iced tea and have a couple of macarons. I got the 2 seasonal macarons. One was a mango something, and one was some sort of berry. I liked the berry one a lot. The mango one was okay. But I ended up eating that as I was starting to walk towards Jane's work. Not that I was going to walk all the way there, but I figured I'd walk while I was doing this, hoping to find a ledge to sit on, a planter to sit on. And I never did. I ended up just eating them leaning up against the building. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to order the Uber from here or the Lyft. And I finished my iced tea and I start to order, and it says pick up at Dos Caminos, which is a great Mexican place. There's a few of them around Manhattan and I'm sure elsewhere. And I'm like, wait, I'm not in front of Dos Caminos. I kind of think that was across the street, across West Broadway. So I knew now that I was at the corner of Broadway and Houston. And how it's Houston and why the city of Houston isn't called Houston, or why the street isn't called Houston, I don't know. But it's Houston, but spelled like the city of Houston. So I'm on that corner, and I thought, I wonder what I'm in front of. And I take Seeing AI out, and I see that I'm in front of a Starbucks. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm still thirsty because the iced tea that I got, they're little. And I had finished that a block or two earlier because I was drinking that as I was walking. I thought, I'm going to go inside. It's still a little early to go over to Jane's. This way I can hang out inside. And again, it was a hot day. It was mid-90s. I'll hang out. I'll use my phone, try not to run the juice down too much, and wait a bit. So I'm not sitting at Jane's office for 2 hours waiting for her to finish because we were going to have dinner. So I go in there. I order an iced tea, drink it, a big one, and drink it while I'm on my phone. And I'm not using any of the AI stuff. So the battery is draining. I'm now down to like 20 or something. Finally, I'm texting with Jane and I said, hey, do you want something from Starbucks before I get in the ride share? And she said, yeah. And I get her something. And I get the ride share. Well, I ordered the ride share. Let me just back up for a second. I placed my order. I got my iced tea, and it was probably a half an hour to 45 minutes later, I ordered Jane's. But when I went back up to the counter, the girl said to me, hey, David, back for some more? I said, yep. And I placed my order. So I was amazed that, and again, it wasn't that busy at the Starbucks, but I just, again, one of the customer service things that folks do to make you feel special. The fact that she remembered me, I thought I was pretty impressed with that. And again, it wasn't terribly long that I had placed my order before. But I go out front and I go between Uber and Lyft. And every time I check the two of them lately, Lyft has been cheaper and sometimes significantly cheaper. So I order the Lyft, put in the fact that I'm blind, I'm wearing the black shirt and the tan pants. I'm standing in front of the Starbucks. And the address that it gave was 482 West Broadway. And West Broadway and Broadway are two different streets, by the way, in case you didn't know. I'm waiting and it says, I think his name was Alberto or Roberto, and has arrived. And I don't see any cars that have pulled up. I see cars still going, and it's at a red light. It's a big intersection. So I text him and I said, could you call my name out or beep your horn? Well, in New York, there's a horn beeping every 5 seconds. So that didn't help. Finally, it said, he's going to leave. And I'm like, please don't leave. Just where exactly are you? And he messages me back. He says, I'm in front of the Starbucks. I said, oh, he called me. I'm sorry. He called me. And I said, are you in Houston? And he said, yes. I said, okay. And then I walked about 10 paces and there he was. And so I get in and I appreciated him waiting. And of course, I gave him a good tip. We go over to Jane's office where they make me feel like a rock star when I walk in there. I don't know why. I don't know why they think I'm so special. But I walked in there. I said hello. I met some people that I hadn't met, Danilo and Jess and MK, all I hadn't met before. And some other folks were there who I had met, Gabby and a couple others. And it was nice to hang out there. They were all busy doing things, but the office wasn't that packed. And I don't know if it was because it was summertime. And again, the way the office is laid out, it's one giant room with a whole bunch of desks put together, no dividers. Somebody's on the phone over there, people typing on their keyboards all over the place. It's sensory overload. And talking to a couple other blind folks, and they don't know how they could work like that. Again, because we've got to listen, not read. So if a blind person is working in that situation, there's going to be a whole lot of headphones or earbuds or whatnot going on there for blind folks. But the interesting part was when I was at Yahoo, Murtaza said that he would love to work in an office and have a place to go. He isn't from New York. He was actually in the office for the week. He was staying for the week to do testing and meet with his group and so forth and so on. And I found that interesting. He said a lot of people who live in the city do come in every day because they have some place to go. And as a lot of folks have said, it gets a little lonely working at home, especially if you don't have anybody else in the house. And so it's also a way to socialize and talk to other folks. So I thought that was interesting. And again, Jane's office, they're required to go in 3 days a week. I believe at Yahoo, I think he said they could be totally hybrid. And I know Bryant has told me he doesn't go in very often, only when he has specific meetings or whatnot. So I thought that was very interesting. But on this day that I was there, the Thursday that I was there, it seemed about half full. And I said, are there any days where all the seats are full? And Danilo, who is an HR guy there, was saying yes, but it's going to be a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and probably not in the summer. So I thought that was very interesting. Jane finally finishes up, and it's a little past 6. Now, I have an 8:30 train coming back to Philadelphia, and we wanted to go to Junior's. It was a couple days after Cheesecake Day, but we wanted to go. Jane wanted to have a piece of cheesecake there it was like a combination. It was almost like 2 desserts in one, cheesecake and birthday cake with sprinkles, both in the cake and on top and whatnot. So she's worried that we're not going to have enough time to eat. So we're going to order a car. So I pull up Uber and Lyft and we decide to go. We were going to go with Lyft, but we wanted to wait till we got downstairs. And when we got downstairs to order it, the wait was a little longer than what we thought it would be. So we just took the subway, and it was great because instead of paying, I don't remember what it was, $20 or $30 to go maybe a mile, we got on the subway. It was, whatever the subway is, $2.90 for each of us. So we saved $24. It was about $30. So we saved that money, and it was not far from Junior's where we got out. And, we walked at a brisk pace to get to Junior's, and Jane has me walking out in the street because there's people queued up to go into the plays that are over there on Broadway, and people just stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. And she really is like a New Yorker because she will say whatever she's thinking. If the person, why would you just stop in the middle? She would say as we're walking past somebody who just stopped in the middle. And so we get to juniors and we go right in and sit down. No issues. And I had kind of wanted to sit outside. Jane thought inside would be better. I was freezing. I mean, it was like the Arctic was blowing on me. And when our food came and we shared a grilled cheese and then we got potato pancakes, what we call latkes, and the fries were so nice and warm that came with the grilled cheese. I was eating them just to warm up. So that was kind of funny, but it was really good. The potato latkes were good. Everything was good. And we had plenty of time for me to get down to the train station to catch the train home. And we did a couple of laps around Moynihan. Jane was going to get some matcha from whatever the place is she called, but they closed. They're supposed to close at 8. It was like 20 to 8 and they were closed. And she tried the door, couldn't get in. She says, if I can go in, I'm going to order. And the door was locked, so she couldn't go in. So they lost the sale. I don't think they care, but because employees the way they are for the most part these days. And it's interesting because every time we've gone to juniors, the staff has been so helpful. The last time Jane and I had gone, our table was wobbly and the guy's name was Manny. He went and he got a shiv and leveled the table off so it wasn't wobbly. This guy, his name was Julio. He was very helpful and very attentive. And it's just, why do some businesses do so well with hiring and their employees and others are horrible? I don't get it. I don't know. But again, it was a nice day. All around, Jane asked me after I got home if I enjoyed the day. And I said, the day was great. It was just a great day. And as we were texting on the train, she said, I hope I didn't stress you out. I said, it was a great day in spite of you. And of course I was joking, but it was an awesome day testing the app. The app was cool. And I can't wait for it to come out because the current app doesn't have some of the things that the new app has. And I'm looking forward to that. You could check the crypto prices all on the one screen. It was very cool. So I'm looking forward to that. That is all I have for this episode. I really do appreciate you listening. And it's episode 268. So show notes over on the website, ican'tseeyou.com/268. That's ican'tseeyou.com/268, numerically speaking. And remember, I Can't See You sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 characters long. ican'tseeyou.com/268. Reach out on all the socials at David Benj, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, whichever you prefer. Threads, LinkedIn, if I didn't mention that. And you can listen to this episode on YouTube, youtube.com/David Benj. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode on the podcast, and leave a review if you would on any of the podcast players where you're listening. I really would appreciate it. You can reach out via email, ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. If you've got questions, comments, show ideas, anything you've got, I'd love to hear from you. ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. Please reach out, or better yet, and we did this on an upcoming episode of White Canes Connect, episode 107. Reach out via voicemail. You've got up to 3 minutes, 646-926-6350. 3 minutes, name and town, and whatever else you've got to say. You may want to think about what you want to say first, so you're not leaving multiple messages. But again, 646-926-6350. I'd love to hear from you. Again, questions, comments, show ideas, tips, things you've done that may help other blind folks, things that you have found out, maybe about the Phillies who I've reached out to see if the audio stuff is working yet. No response. So Greg, I hope you've gotten a response, and I hope you've gone to a game. Although the way they're playing lately, maybe not. They're on the road now, so that part is good. Thanks again for joining me. Be well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.